Hey, we're going over chapter two of intentional parenting, and this one was being a patient parent. And so for me, the first kind of question that came up is what was the household that you grew up in? And, where was grace kind of active in your home life? And is grace kind of apparent in your home now? And if not, going back to what we talked about in chapter one, that counter transference that, what is building up inside of you to bring these things kind of together. And so that's where, those kind of questions come up of, where did I grow up? And how does that affect where my patience may be a long thread or maybe even a short thread, but how can I recognize that? And so they had a really great analogy. I believe, let's see, Sissy Goff wrote this chapter and had a really good notion of deep sea fishing and then kind of trolling, because there's the patience of going, kind of going down and going in depth and waiting, for something to happen, but as well as trolling, where you have kind of your lines on the back of the boat and you're kind of pulling along and what's kind of getting brought up in that time. And so those are really good, kind of analogies that I really see within parenting, that she brings up as well. And she gives these different kind of mantras or different self-care techniques to do whenever being a patient parent, especially whenever you're kind of doing those bottom fishings, those long waits, those long things is, and she kind of brings these out. And the first one is breathe, listen, give them a chance, give them the benefit of the doubt, keep a sense of humor, think about your child's capabilities, allow downtime in your schedule, give yourself a timeout, start 15 minutes early, know your patience will be challenged, and going with, and she ends with this notion of, a proverb of having a fool for a child is misery. It is no fun being the parent of adults. And every child will act as a fool at least once in their life, whether it's pouring Cheerios or, causing, a little bit of chaos. And so to kind of remember that and to be willing, and that's where that grace kind of comes through. And so, if we are to practice grace abundantly, how much our children will be able to mirror that grace whenever it comes to their relationships with their friends, and then, eventually, their boyfriend or girlfriend, or, whatever that kind of leads to. And so, seeing that patience kind of come up is super important. And so, for me, within that is the big ones that I really enjoyed were to keep a sense of humor and then to give yourself a timeout. One of the big things for me is whenever I can feel my blood pressure rising, whenever I feel, kind of my chest, tighten a little bit, that my body is telling me, hey, you need to take a breath, you need to take a step back, and then re-enter into the conversation. And it's letting the person that you're having, this frustration with, a child, a spouse, coworker, whomever, that hey, I'm getting flooded is the language that Anna and I use. Hey, I'm getting flooded. I'm getting overwhelmed. I need to take a little bit. Can we come back to this in 30 minutes or 15 or an hour or whatever? But letting that person know, hey, I'm going into an unhealthy state right now, and I need to move out of this situation. But I respect and this conversation is valued, and so we will come back to it at a later point. And so I think that those are, kind of huge self-care techniques on how this goes. And that's, a little bit that she talks about later on in this chapter, is being able to take care of yourself. And I think that that's where our patience gets tried, is whenever we're tired, whenever we're angry, and we're reacting more than we're being proactive, to go back to chapter one. And so just kind of realizing that, within patience, and she ends with, pray like crazy, that there is something within the power of prayer. Not everyone is a fantastic prayer, or, very diligent, or, consistent within their praying. But in those moments that you can kind of find those places to pray, individually, but as well as a family, I think is just super important.